Screen time and children's brains. So in a moment, I'm going to talk about screen time, how much time kids are on that, what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends for screen time. We're going to get to that because that's talking about building your children's brains, and of course all of us as adults, and for those of you that are parents, all you want for your child is the opportunity for them to become the best version of themselves, right? You just want to create an environment so they can develop into the finest human that they possibly can be. Makes sense, right? That's what we're all after here, okay? So I'm going to give you a list of things that you can do as I get into screens of building children's brains. Of course, the first one is nutrition. Second is exercise. The third one is sleep. Then we're spine, stress, supplements, and then the last one is screens. In a couple of minutes, we're gonna focus on screens, but I just want to touch on those first 7 right now, okay? Just for a moment with each one, because just in case I don't get to do these shows again, there's some just critical gems in here that I have for you. Regarding nutrition, I'm just going to read the title of a couple of books. The Crazy Makers: How the Food Industry is Destroying Our Brains and Harming Our Children by Carol Simontachi. The book was written in 2000, that's 21 years ago. Just the title of the book says, yeah, we need to take some action there for ourselves and our children. One quote, I just wanted to remind you of this: feeding cow's milk to an infant sets them up for a greater risk of juvenile onset diabetes, type 1 diabetes, insulin-dependent diabetes. The risk goes up when you feed children and infants cow's milk because it creates an immune system reaction, antibodies. The antibodies may destroy the insulin-producing parts of the pancreas, and then you get type 1 diabetes for the rest of your life, okay? Next book, The Hacking of the American Mind by Robert Lustig. Again, 2018 book. The title says it all, The Hacking of the American Mind. The subtitle is the science behind the corporate takeover of our bodies and brains. And then he has solutions in there too, and the solutions toward the end of his book include connect, contribute, cope, and cook. Another book, Brain Maker by Dr. David Perlmutter, a neurologist. This is his 2015 book. He has a couple of other books after that. He states in there, the Western diet with pro-inflammatory sugars, pro-inflammatory omega-6 fats, and too few omega-3 fats, more on that in a moment, cause high levels of C-reactive protein, and high blood sugar is one of the biggest risk factors for depression and Alzheimer's. There's nutrition. Number 2, exercise. Just very simply, I want to introduce you to a book by Katie Bowman in 2017. The title of the book is Move Your DNA. Great little book. Definitely get that if you want to, for your children and for you. Number 3, sleep. I've talked about this before. I did a great show on here a year ago. You can go to my YouTube page if you've missed it. Just search for sleep. Great thing. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker in 2017. A great recommendation in there was to set an alarm to go to bed. Set an alarm to go to bed. According to one study talking about, actually this was something different, infants 6 to 12 months old who were exposed to screens in the evening showed significantly shorter nighttime sleep than those who had no evening screen exposure. That was a study from 2015 in ACTA Pediatrica. Okay? Really try to avoid screens at all costs, particularly screens at night, all of us, as best you can. If you have to be on a screen, and sometimes I have to, blue blocking glasses, okay? And by the way, a year ago, I did a great show on nutrition. Go check that out on my YouTube page. A year ago, I did a great show on exercise. Go check that out. Number 4 is spine. The reference for that is a book called Happy Back, one of the best Bibles that you can read on spine. That's my book, Dr. Scott Fuller, written in 2007, Happy Back. Take care of your spine. By the way, why would I include spine with child's brain development? We now know that when we work on the spine, one chiropractic adjustment improves glucose uptake in the brain cells In other words, improve blood flow to the brain, one chiropractic adjustment. There are other studies that show brain activity increases after stimulation of those powerful nerve endings around the spine. So then you ask the question, is that included in your child's health? Spinal checkups, just like you do dental checkups and so forth. Why wouldn't we do that? It sounds like a good idea to me. Number 5 is stress. I did a couple of great shows a year ago on this program here on stress. If you missed those, go to my YouTube page. You can you can search for stress, and you can search for another video I did on mindfulness and meditation. Great stuff there. A couple of books for references. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Lots of profanities there. You've been warned. Own Yourself by Kelly Brogan, a holistic psychiatrist out of New York. Tears to Triumph by Marianne Williamson. Just some references there. You can go look at those things. Number 6 is supplements. We know that omega-3s are just critical. I've been talking about omega-3s for over 22 years now. Do you know what your omega-6 to omega-3 fat ratio is? That's something I do in my office with a little finger prick. Omega-6 to omega-3. 121 years ago, at the turn of last century, the average American was about 1 to 1, omega-6 to omega-3, 1 to 1. If you're 3 to 1 or better, you're in the safe zone. If you're 15 to 1, you're at the risk of a chronic disease or disorder. Average American, 25 to 1. 25 to 1 bad fat to good fat, 25 to 1. I tested a 9-year-old in my office, 30 to 1. A colleague of mine, Dr. Dan Murphy, tested a medical physician, an adult medical physician, 70 to 1. 70 to 1. He, by the way, that medical physician, changed that, improved diet, took supplements and so forth, really changed the chronic health problems that he had. Supplements, you can definitely vitamin D. Vitamin D, I've got it on my website. I've done shows on it. Vitamin D, vitamin C, just some basics. You can get fancier with that magnesium and so forth. Okay, here we are, screens. Screen time, child's brains. Here we go. Just a couple of tidbits. You probably all know this. 2017, Facebook executive does not let his kids use social media. Shamanth Palihapitiya. I probably am not saying that correctly. Sorry about that. But that was the person's name. Here's another one from 2021. Former Facebook, this is the current news trend in September and October of 2021. Former Facebook data scientist Frances Haugen was talking about how social media harms children's brains. That was, again, that hot topic recently about how the social media is affecting brains. Kudos on you to step up. I hope that woman is able to change people's minds somewhat, at least alert us to what's going on. We'll see what happens there. 2018, you might have heard this, where Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, they ban tech for their children, but of course they want all other children using it. Interesting article. It sounds like it's true, so you can change that or comment to me or whatever if I don't have that correct, but that's what I zipped up today. Okay, screen time in children's brains. Increased screen time affects the ability to learn new things. This is if you're overdoing screen time. This has been well accepted across the scientific literature, doctors, scientists, neuroscientists, and so forth. Affects the ability to learn new things, interact with others, language development, lower performance on reading tests, deficits in attention, loss of problem solving on their own in real life situations, okay? So that's what an increase in screen time in non-regulated screen time can affect the development of the human brain. And again, this is only one generation, right? One generation is being affected in this way. I'm not saying that phones are going to go away, computers are going to go away, TVs are going to go away. They're not, but we certainly can improve our relationship with screens. We're going to get to some recommendations here in a moment. Okay. So this was an article I just read before coming in and doing this show on New York Presbyterian, nyp.org. Fairly recent article. There was no date on the article, but it's at least more recent than 2018. Here's why. So they had Dr. Jennifer Cross on this article, and she is a child behavior expert. She was quoting some data, early data from a landmark National Institutes of Health, NIH study that began in 2018. That's why I think the article is even newer than that. indicates that children who spend more than 2 hours a day with screen time activities scored lower on language and thinking tests. And some children with more than 7 hours a day, and there's a lot of them, more on that in a moment, of screen time experience thinning of the brain cortex. So now we're actually going in. Oh, okay, children, you're spending 7 hours or more on your screens per day. Let's do a functional MRI of your brain. And the important part of the brain that has, like, your neurons in it is thinner than children that are spending less screen time. And by the way, what is the data now? What is the data? The average teenager is spending 8 hours a day on their phone. 8 hours a day. So a teenager's full-time job is the phone. And if you're a teenager watching this, you know that. And if you're a parent and a teacher, you know that. You know that that's the case. So we would just need to work together as a team. We're all on the same team. Work together as a team to try to decrease that. And I've done shows on this, by the way. You can go to my YouTube page, and I've done shows and I've made suggestions on reducing screen time and how to navigate your way there. If you're going to have children, I have children, they don't have a phone yet or their own tablet yet or so forth, your job is a bit easier because you can set the parameters now and agree as, let's say you're an intact parental unit, you can set your parameters together and come an agreed upon solution, and there you go. If you already have teenagers that are glued on their phone, and I've done shows on this as well, you can have agreements on earning time with grades, earning time with doing chores around the house. Sometimes some children find earning screen time, let's say it's been limited now, the earning screen time is more important to them than an allowance. You might have found that as parents, right? Okay. So the American Academy of Pediatrics has come up with some protocols, recommendations on age-appropriate screen time. Okay? 18 months and younger, none. 18 to 24 months, high-quality programming, watch the programming with the child. Okay? They didn't give a time parameter, but it's less than an hour because then they say 2 to 5 years, 1 hour a day maximum. And again, choose the programming appropriately, watch it with the child, and make sure you're interacting with the child about what they are watching. So here we are, 5 years and younger, none to an hour max. 6 to 12 years, they didn't give a time increment here, but we already know in teenagers it's 8 hours on average right now. Place limits and do not let screens interfere with sleep, exercise, other behaviors essential to health, which I believe then is interacting with other children and game playing, right? So then we don't want it in the evening, so that means no screen time after dinner. And that means you want to be interacting with the children. So you can see that it's pretty limited, right? Less is best. Less is best, I think, is the take-home message here. And then 12 and older, again, they didn't give an hourly recommendation because one of the things, and they're pretty sharp about this too, is they didn't want to make any parents feel badly about where they are and what the recommendations are and the number of hours. They're just trying to help people navigate their way, giving the children during their formative years, their formative neurological forming of the brain, to guide you as best we can to make that development happen. 12 and older, designate media-free time such as dinner and driving. I think that's awesome, dinner and driving. And media-free zones such as bedrooms, I think that would be awesome. Setting that up as early as possible. No TV in the bedroom, no media in the bedroom, and then media-free times as a family, dinner, driving. I think that's great. So I have those references if you need them. A couple of articles here that I just wanted to pop before we're done. This is an article from 2004, so 17 years ago. Study shows 2 hours a day leads to difficulty concentrating. This is WebMD. The name of the article, the title of the article is Toddler TV Time. Again, this is before cell phones were so ubiquitous. Toddler TV time can cause attention problems. Tempting as it may be to do so, using the television to babysit 1 to 3-year-olds increases the possibility that babies will have attention problems in school, according to results of a new study of more than 2,500 children. Developmental experts have been concerned about TV time for decades, and the American Academy of Pediatrics is already on record in favoring limiting toddler TV time. Exercise caution in letting children under 2 watch television. Again, as we talked about earlier, 18 months and younger, none is a recommendation. One of the authors in this article, a medical physician who's the father of 2 children, ages 6 and 3, and a believer in the value of life without TV, an MD now, says he decided to study TV after seeing firsthand how television could captivate even a very young child. When my son was just 3 months old, I had him in my arms in a store when TVs were on, and I noticed that he just couldn't take his eyes off the screen, which prompted that thing before I do my last clip here, And I noticed when I got rid of cable TV, when I got rid of my television, I just stopped watching TV. I noticed the same thing with myself. Here I am on cable television, right? When I stopped, when I really limited my TV time, when I would walk into a place, someone's house, a store, a restaurant, or whatever, and there was a TV screen, boom, my eyes would go right to the screen. And this was a decade and a half ago, and I just noticed how the lighted screen was so attractive to my brain when I limited my own TV time. Interesting. Last one. This is the one I found, and I found it just before I came in, and I'm apologizing to the studio being a couple of minutes late because I just found the one I was looking for, and I had saved this. Media Education for Children, out of the journal Pediatrics, August of 1999. This study is 22 years ago now, and it was brought to me by my great colleague, Dr. Dan Murphy. And American Academy of Pediatrics, 1998-1999. The AAP recognizes that exposure to mass media, television, movies, video and computer games, the internet, music, lyrics and videos, newspapers, magazines, and so forth, presents both health risks and benefits, but pediatricians are increasingly aware of negative media influences on children and adolescents. The average American child spends more than 21 hours per week watching TV. That was 22 years ago. That was 3 hours a day. It's now 8 hours on the phone, just a comparison from 22 years ago to now. 3 hours on the TV back 22 years ago, 8 hours on a phone now. Time spent with media often displaces involvement with creative, active, or social pursuits, says this article. More than 1,000 scientific studies and reviews conclude that significant exposure to media violence increases the risk of aggressive behavior, and so on and so forth. I'm sure that is not 1,000 scientific studies now, it's probably 10,000, we could run that down. Increased television use is documented to be a significant factor leading to obesity and reduces school achievement. Advice to parents should include the following: encouraging careful selection of programs to view, again, this is 22 years ago, co-viewing and discussing content with children, teaching critical viewing skills, limiting and focusing time spent with media, being a good media role model by selectively using media and limiting their own media choices as adults, emphasizing alternative activities. Catch this now, as I said earlier on, catch this now, 22 years ago, creating an electronic media-free environment in children's rooms. The recommendation has been around a long time. By the way, I reported on this 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I remember talking about this, probably on this show. Pediatricians should urge parents to avoid TV viewing for children under the age of 2. That's Screen Time in Your Child's Brain. I'm Dr. Scott Fuller.